I need your prayers big time. I want to lift up the passages that have been given to us by the architects of our program. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 9 from the New Revised Standard Version translation of the 11th century vowed Hebrew text. But take care and watch yourselves closely so as neither to forget the things that your eyes have seen, nor to let them slip from your mind all the days of your life. Make them known to your children and your children's children. Then, of course, Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 17, verse from the New International Version translation. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Consider now, call for the wailing women to come. Send for the most skillful of them. And I want to put a tag on this text, and for these few moments with your prayers, I want to talk about the call to sacred memory, the cry of black blood. Everybody want to be king till shots ring and you laying on the balcony with holes in your dream. Us who would follow in the footsteps. There is a price to pay for prophetic witness. Everybody want to be king till shots ring and you laying on the balcony with holes in your dream. Says to all of us that in the aftermath of the drum major for Justice artistically articulating his dream and prophetically previewing what America could be on August 28th, 1963. Shortly thereafter, there were holes in his dream. We recognize that because here we are in the 16th Street Baptist Church. It has already been declared this night from this pulpit that in less than 3 weeks after Martin Luther King Jr. had both narrated the nightmare of America, but then pushed by Mahalia Jackson, because Mahalia Jackson from the sidelines, when she saw that Martin's message was not hitting on all cylinders, she cried out, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." And Michael Eric Dyson interprets that by saying that black women, even when you haven't been in charge, you've been in control. And with that being the case, my sisters and brothers, Martin Luther King Jr., heeding the wisdom of Mahalia Jackson, began to tell America about his dream. But then, of course, September 15th, 1963, 4 little girls of sainted memory had come to study God's word right here in the 16th Street Baptist Church. And after Sunday school had concluded, getting ready to worship the God of our weary years in silent tears, these 4 little girls found their lives being snuffed out, aborted, if you please, by a bomb that had gone off in a city at the time that was known as Birmingham. Birmingham had snatched their lives from them. And Martin King Jr. in an interview is reflecting on what happened September 15th. And when King reflects on what happened September 15th, holes in his dream, he said that his dream had turned into a nightmare. Of course, we learn from the wisdom of James Baldwin. Jimmy Baldwin was engaged in dialogue with Reinhold Niebuhr. And in this conversation with Reinhold Niebuhr, according to James Cone in his classic, The Cross and the Lynching Tree, all of a sudden the question is raised to James Baldwin. Mr. Baldwin, what do you think of the fact that the face of Christ was blown out in the stained glass windows? Hear the clapback, the classic clapback of James Baldwin. It's an achievement, seeing as how black people have been victimized by your alabaster Christ. Hang out there homiletically, my sisters and brothers, because James Baldwin was speaking of the white Christ. There was a white face in that window, that stained glass window. When James Baldwin, my sisters and brothers, spoke of black people being victimized by that white Christ. And of course, I kept reading James Cone in his classic, The Cross and the Lynching Tree. And in that classic, he shares, watch this print, this portrait by, who is it? Hale Woodruff. And Hale Woodruff, I hope you remember, shares a print. And in this print is one who has been lynched. He has hung like strange fruit, to use the language of Billie Holiday, and with a rope still around his neck. According to the imagination of Hale Woodruff, he is left on the steps of a church. Hear with me the contradictions that are going on. King had articulated his dream, but now there were holes in his dream, and the holes in his dream had turned his dream into a nightmare. Not only that, but here also you note with me that the face of Christ, a white face, had been blown out of the 16th Street Church. Contradictions, my sisters and brothers. And then here Hale Woodruff speaks of a forlorn figure who had been lynched and killed, and now this figure is on the doorsteps of a black church, seeing as it were the black church is handcuffed by helplessness. Why? Because there are holes in the dream of Martin King. I park here parenthetically to say the holes are still in the dream of Dr. King. Holes in the dream of Dr. King, in that in the aftermath of the election of Barack Obama as the first African American president of these disunited states of America, 8 years later this nation engaged in white lash, to use the language of Van Jones, because whenever there's been perceived black progress in this nation, it has been followed by a vicious and terroristic white lash. There has been pushback to perceived black progress. You're not feeling me. I'll keep pushing this thing, because my sisters and brothers, there are holes in the dream of Martin King. No wonder Cornel West captured it brilliantly by saying, here we are now in an age that is characterized by a spiritual eclipse of decency, honesty, and integrity. And I piggyback on that by saying this eclipse has left us in the chaotic shadows of emboldened racism, a resurgent white supremacy, not to mention predatory patriarchy that is poisoned further by toxic masculinity. And then you have ugly xenophobia that is also fed by racism, not to mention an unvarnished greed of capitalism. Yes, there are holes in the dream of Martin King. And with that being the case, I thought it was brilliant of the architects of our conference program to unite in holy wedlock these amazing passages of scripture, both from the Hebrew Bible. First of all, of course, you recognize there in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy had been discovered during the reign of King Josiah, but it was a time before its discovery where the people of God had turned their back on the God of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah and Rachel. And in turning their back on that God, they turned their back on the God of justice, the God who sides with the oppressed. And in reading the book of Deuteronomy, understand Deuteronomy is a message from Moses, the legendary lawgiver, leader, and liberator of the community that was up from slavery. And Moses is delivering a series of valedictory messages, and in the process of delivering those messages, Moses tells them, don't you get amnesia. Make sure you remember the God of our weary years and silent tears. Don't be afflicted with amnesia. But hold on, because the text is married now in this conference to Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 17, where Jeremiah calls for the skilled, weeping, wailing women to come and wail over the wreckage and wickedness. The weeping or the wailing women are to keen over the killings. They are to cry over the carnage. We need weeping, wailing women. I like that right there, because what we are doing right here in coming coming to Birmingham is we are saying, yes, we as a people love to celebrate, but maybe we need to come to Birmingham to cry. Maybe we need to come to Birmingham to hear and heed the cry of black blood. Preach, Freddie Haynes, I'm about to do that. Because my sisters and brothers, when you think about the wisdom of who is it, James Weldon Johnson, we have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our feet through the path of the slaughtered. With that being the case, it's interesting that we are called here to lament. We are called here to hear and heed the cry of black blood. Surely you hear the cry of black blood that found itself enduring the heinous hell and horrors of the Middle Passage. Black blood that found itself being sold on auction blocks as merchandise. Black blood in families that were separated. Parenthetically, please understand, when news persons have the gall and politicians have the nerve, their families down at the border, and then they have the innocent gall to say that's just not America. Yes, it is America, because we have come over a way that with tears have been watered, as mothers had snatched from their bosoms their children, and husbands and wives were separated from each other. It's as American as apple pie. And with that being the case, my sisters and brothers, we ought to come here to hear the cry of black blood. Hear the cry of black blood swinging from southern trees as strange fruit. Hear the cry of black blood from the carnage there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, after the terror of the destruction of a community at the hands of white supremacists. Hear the cry of black blood in Arkansas when hundreds of lives were lost. I hope you hear the cry of black blood who have suffered at the hands of predatory policing. And so hear the cry of Sandra Bland, Walter Scott. Hear the cry of those who have been victimized by self-appointed vigilantes. And so hear the cry of little Emmett Till, and make sure you hear the cry of young Trayvon Martin. We've got to hear the cry of black blood, but we're called to sacred memory, because there's power in memory. As you hear the cry of black blood, we're called to sacred memory. It's already been pointed out that now there is a replacement in the stained glass. What used to be a white Jesus has been replaced. Black Jesus, but Bible Jesus, because you do recognize my Bible says his hair was like wool, his skin was like burnt brass. That looks like y'all a whole lot. And with that being the case, my sisters and brothers, I'm glad that black Jesus is coming back on the scene. We need black Jesus. We've had too much hell at the hands of white Jesus. White Jesus sanctioned slavery. White Jesus stood for second-class citizenship. White Jesus supported Jim and Jane Crow segregation. I'm tired of white Jesus. Y'all excuse me, to hell with white Jesus, because we need us some black Jesus. I like black Jesus because black Jesus is the Jesus of the Bible. Black Jesus is the one, to use the language of Jeffrey Johnson, who could take a 2-piece and 5 biscuits and perform a pop-up banquet in the wilderness. I'm talking could convert a funeral procession of devastating grief and transform it into a festive family reunion. Give me some black Jesus, because black Jesus had so much healing in the hem of his garment that even if you had pre-existing conditions, you could get health care. Give me some black Jesus, because black Jesus ministered to those on the margins. Black Jesus stood for those who were oppressed. And so I got to have me some black Jesus. And when we have black Jesus, we will heed the call to sacred memory and hear the cry of black blood. What does that look like? I'm almost done. But when we heed that cry and hear that call, note with me to begin with, I love Deuteronomy, because Deuteronomy in the Freddie Haynes remix simply says, a spirit of Sankofa memory will inform your sense of identity and give birth to brand new possibilities. You better preach, Freddie Haynes. I'm about to do that thing. Because here, understand, in Deuteronomy, Moses is saying, don't you get attacked by amnesia. Don't you forget the God who brought you over, because amnesia is dangerous. I'm not coming through like I need to. I'll see if I can call on the ancestor, Dr. Asa Hilliard. Dr. Asa Hilliard spoke about, watch this, the dynamics of domination. In the dynamics of domination, he maintained that racism operates best as an eraser, because it erases the African memory, it erases African culture, and in the process it replaces that with a belief in white supremacy, so that you only subscribe to white institutions, and the white socialization process precludes you from becoming anything other than what they define you as becoming. And it all begins with the erasing of the African mind, because the moment that you forget who you are, then other people can tell you. I think I preached and y'all just missed that. And so what he says is, we've got to understand the power of sacred memory. That's why we have gathered here, because there's something about memory that informs your identity. One of the baddest scholars in the world is here tonight, Dr. Stacy Floyd Thomas. And Dr. Stacy Floyd Thomas one time dropped a bomb in the midst of a conversation. It's about to shout you. Watch what she said. She said that our identities are informed by the stories that have been told to us. Preach, Stace. In a real sense, what she is saying is that when stories have been told to you about you that demean you, that devalue you, that make you feel you are less than and not equal to, that will inform your identity and abort your possibilities. But once you have stories told to you that are true, I guess that's why Katie Cannon is on that thing. Every time they lie to you, you tell the truth back at them, because Katie Cannon recognized if the truth sets you free, then lies will lock you up. I think I said something. And with that being the case, if stories that are lies are repeatedly told to you, they will lock you up in a lack of esteem. They will lock you up to believe you are less than and not equal to. But when you know who you are, because of the spirit of Sankofa and a memory that informs your identity, it gives you power. I'm not coming through. I'll make it real plain. Watch this. Watch this. Last year, about this time, all of us were what? Wakanda happy. It was all about Wakanda forever. I'm down with that. Wakanda forever. I'm down with that. I was feeling me some Wakanda. Saw that thing some 20 times, Doc. I saw it some 20 times. Here, it's what blew my mind. You recall what happened, don't you? We learn in there how memory can inform identity and birth new possibilities. I'm a shout you. Here's the shout right here. In the movie, The Black Panther, you know T'Chaka, daddy has been killed. T'Challa is about to become king, but before he can become king, he must go through a challenge, because you cannot get to the throne unless you go through a challenge. Now that does preach. Y'all just missed your shout. You cannot get to your throne unless you go through a challenge. Here's your shout. The shout is, of course, there were no challengers at first. And then all of a sudden, M'Baku comes down from the mountain. Here comes M'Baku and his people from the mountain. And they are going to challenge T'Challa to become the next king of Wakanda. And here's what goes down. The fight ensues. And M'Baku is whooping up on T'Challa. T'Challa is in the grip of a bear hug. He is bleeding. And in the midst of that, through his tears, he sees the regal Angela Bassett, who plays his mama. And Angela Bassett says to him, show him who you are. And y'all know what happened after that. After he heard from the queen, that's when he remembered who he was. I gotta stop right there. Black women, I just want to thank y'all, because y'all always show us who we are. Y'all always remind us who we are. We can't come to Alabama and not thank black women for making sure that a child predator did not get elected to the United States Senate. We can't come to Alabama and not thank God for Rosa. Thank you, black women. Ain't no queen like a black queen. Boom. But hold on. So y'all know how it's turned out, because once T'Challa heard that from his mama, hear what he said. He said, I am T'Challa, son of T'Chaka. And that's when he overcame M'Baku and became the next king. But it all began when mama said, show him who you are. Well, here we are, Proctor Conference, and we're going to be here for a few days. But here's my benediction to all of you. When you leave this Thursday, go back wherever you've come from, and if they try to come for you wrong, show them who you are. If you get to the White House and have to deal with 46 minus 1, show him who you are. If folk try to come at you with racism, white supremacy, toxic masculinity, show them who you are. So you got to have that Sankofa memory that then, watch this, leads into sacred mourning. Sacred mourning. I want to thank Dr. Will Gaffney for her brilliance of helping me with chapter 9 verse 17, because Dr. Gaffney talks about in chapter 9 verse 17 the wailing women. And please don't miss this, and I got to stop and just get this out because it worked my last nerve while trying to go through commentaries to find out who the wailing women were. It was real jacked up to see toxic masculinity of folk who are teaching in our seminaries, who don't want to give women their proper credit, who don't want to show love to women, who want to treat women as second-class citizens in the Bible. And if they treat you second class in the Bible, what you think they gonna do in class? Now, that wasn't in the sermon, okay? That was free. It just ticked me off. And so here's what happened. Dr. Gaffney shared with me about the wailing women and how the wailing women, watch this, they were grief counselors, theologians, and they had, watch this, skills. Who, you didn't get that? Some translations even leave out get the skilled ones because they don't want to give the sisters the kind of props the sisters deserve. God deliver me from churches that are always treating women like second-class citizens, but they don't mind receiving their first-class tithe. And so here it is. The text says that the prophet, the passionate prophet, the weeping word bearer, Jeremiah, I like what he does. Jeremiah says, I need the skilled sisters. I need the sisters who've been through something, the sisters who know how to weep, the sisters who know this ain't a time to laugh, this ain't a time to dance, it's a time to cry. And I'm just asking for the sisters now, because sometimes we bros mess it up. We need sisters to help us to understand what it means to weep over the wreckage, what it means to cry over the carnage. We need some sisters who will help us to understand we ain't in Alabama to play games. We didn't come to 16th street just to have a good time. Too much blood has been shed. And somebody ought to say with Dr. James Cone, I want to make sure I live a life worthy of the sacrifice and suffering of my ancestors who caught hell before me. It's time to weep. It's time to weep. It's time to weep. Okay. Here's the beautiful thing about sisters weeping, and that is, sisters, when you weep, I like this right here. Somehow you learn that working with negatives creates the right picture. Now, that was hot right there, but that's not original with me. I got that from Drake. Drake said, I learned working with negatives makes for better pictures. It's a metaphor from photography, because in photography, if you want to develop a picture, you've got to have a negative, and the negative has to go into a dark space. And while it's in the dark space, that's when the negative develops into a picture. And sisters, I just want to thank you, because you've taken the negatives and you somehow have gone into dark places, and in the midst of your weeping, you have produced a better picture. Okay, I got you, because y'all missed your shout. I'll help y'all. If you go to Montgomery, spoiler alert, if you go to Montgomery, there's a museum there that you can't miss. And at this museum, spoiler alert, I got to tell it because it's been preaching to me ever since. There's a hologram in the museum of a black woman. And this black woman tells the true story that one day she returned to the plantation only to discover her sons had been sold to a slave trader. And this black woman rushes to the harbor trying to get there before the ship takes off. And the ship pulls off, and she cries the bitter tears that only a black mama could cry. And she cried and she cried, and some white boys gathered around her and they laughed at her while she cried. Do you hear the cry of the black blood? This mother cries bitter tears. As she's crying those bitter tears, she shifts from crying to talking to God. And she says, God, I didn't get to see my boys. I may never see them again. But I do believe that you can somehow use that ship to set them free. And y'all know what? 6 months later, she receives a message via the Underground Railroad. And the message was from her sons. Her son said, Mama, just wanted to let you know that when we got sold into slavery to the slave trader, we got put on this ship, and then something happened. All of a sudden, a storm came out of nowhere, and the storm so wrecked the ship that we ended up landing in free territory. And when we landed in free territory, it was because the storm set us free. And Mama said, no, send the message back to him. It wasn't the storm that set you free. It was your crying, praying mama that prayed for you. And mama prayer created a storm. I'm glad to say that somebody's here because you had a mama that prayed and worked up some storms. I gotta quit. I've held y'all too long. In the final analysis, the text lets us know when you hear the cry of black blood, the cry of black blood, I love this right here, says don't just focus on who killed them, focus on what killed them. There it is right there. Not just the who, but the what. Now, this ain't original with me. Right from this pulpit, Martin Luther King Jr. was preaching the funeral of 3 of the 4 girls who were slain. Can you see them on the screen of your anointed imagination as they are housed in caskets? And Dr. King is standing behind this sacred desk. And Dr. King then made this statement not just for those in the congregation, but for America to hear. Dr. King said, I'm concerned not just about who killed these girls, but what killed these girls. Look around, he said. It's not just who, it's also what. And that's what I want to stop and deal with. It's not just who is doing what. I like what Nikki Giovanni said. Nikki Giovanni was checking out the hell that our people were experiencing during the Birmingham campaign in 1963. And she saw this police officer with his foot on the back of a senior black woman. And when she was asked about it, she said, I'm not just upset about what the police officer did. I'm upset about the kind of country that could produce a police officer that would engage in such behavior. America, I'm not just concerned that y'all put Trump in office. I'm concerned about what kind of country could elect a sexual predator. What kind of country could elect an ugly xenophobe? What kind of country could elect a bigot into the office of the most powerful office in the world? I'm just trying to say it ain't about just who. It's about what. We're looking at systems, structures, and a spirit that infects this country. I gotta thank my boy Starsky for this. I was trying to figure out how to close this thing, and then we went to a meeting today. And we had this meeting. Y'all should know by now that the hotel jacked some stuff up. And so we went to meet with them because they didn't know who was coming. This ain't no, ordinary organization. We don't just preach social justice. We live social justice. So we met with them today. And had legal and all that stuff in there. And in the midst of the meeting, they start talking about one episode here and one episode there, and this happened. And Starsky Wilson said, listen. And then someone tried to interrupt him. The attorney tried to interrupt him. And Starsky, you heard how soft-spoken he is, he shifted. And Starsky called this man by his first name. Y'all missed your shout. We in Birmingham, Alabama. And this black man called a white attorney by his first name. He said, Steve, I'm talking. Y'all missed your shout right there. Steve, I'm talking. That means you shut up. This is a new day right now. Shut up, I'm talking. And then he said, I don't want to hear no more about this case and that case. You got a systemic issue. I want a systemic solution. If you don't fix the system, we just wasting our time. And that's what we've come to Birmingham to tell America. America, you got a systemic issue. Quit trying to define for us what racism is. We know what racism is. We live it every single day. You got a systemic issue. Now, I'm about to say something that y'all gonna get mad at me, and so you pray for me in advance. Because there's a book out right now, and the book speaks about becoming. And the book, in speaking about becoming, takes an unnecessary swipe at Jeremiah Wright Jr. and the black prophetic preaching tradition. Yeah. And let me just say right quick, because I'm doing this in love. I love her. Ain't had a more regal first lady ever. But unfortunately, she decided to go low and talk about Jeremiah Wright. And I'm not going to attack her because I want to attack what she said. She had the nerve to compare Jeremiah Wright's prophetic denunciation of the United States of America with some racist comments made by her grandmother-in-law. Meaning you clueless about racism, even though you have a Princeton and Harvard degree. And I'm concerned because it's almost because she talked about how he was careening and engaging in spitfire preaching. Don't get mad at me. I'm just telling the truth. And she went in on him and had the nerve to compare the racism of her white grandmother-in-law with what Jeremiah Wright was denouncing as systemic racism in this country when he said those words that people have held over his head in ministry, even though he was quoting someone white from the beginning of the 20th century who said, God damn America. And here's the thing, what gets me upset is that Michelle is more upset with him for using the word damn than she is about the damnable things that this country has done and continues to do do. It's damnable that this country treated us as less than human. It's damnable that this country made us second-class citizens. It's damnable that 5,000 black bodies swung as strange fruit in this nation and were lynched. It's damnable that still to this day black bodies are getting lynched by police officers and they're not held accountable. That's damnable. And so all I need to say is damn that you did not recognize what's damnable, and you compared systemic condemnation with someone using a word that made you uncomfortable. All right. I'm done. I'm sorry. I just had to. Here it is. I'm done. It ain't who, it's what. I'm done. Here it is. I'm done. I was in Cape Town, South Africa. Back in September, and we had the IC3 conference and hotel. Yes, you stay in kind of hotel, so I knew it was all right. So it's the one and only hotel. It's a 5-star hotel in. That's where we were headquartered for our meeting. Didn't have issues like we had with this one. So it's the one and only. It's the one and only. And so I checked into the one and only. When I checked into the one and only, I was given this one bedroom villa. Don't hate. Celebrate. One day you'll participate. So I got this one bedroom villa, Cape Town, South Africa, and I had to. It's so hot. I had to go across a bridge from the lobby. Go across a bridge from the lobby to get to my room, which was on an island. So I get to my one bedroom suite villa, and when I get to my one bedroom suite villa, Doc, you'd love it. One bedroom suite villa, it was fire. I got to this one bedroom suite villa, and it's cold. It's cold in the room, and it's winter in Cape Town because below the equator, September, so it's cold. And so Jeffrey, when I got, because I'm from Dallas, need me some. Still cold in my room. Still cold in the one and only. It's cold in the one and only. And so I decided I can't deal with this. Got to get to church. So I got to church, got back to my room, and called down to the front desk. It's cold in my room, though the heater is on 78. I need you. And so they sent a maintenance person. Maintenance person gets to the room. When they got there, a maintenance person checked out the thermostat and said, I see what's wrong. You've got a system malfunction here. The system is malfunction because there's a disconnect with the system wiring and the structure. And so because there's a system malfunction, that's why the heat ain't working, because the system is broken. And since the system is broken, you in trouble. And so I said, well, what you gonna do? Well, this is the one and only. Here's what he said. He said, well, I can go get you some blankets and some space heaters. And I said, no. This is the one and only. I ain't gonna have no space heaters and blankets because that's charity. When the system is broken, don't give me no blankets, don't give me no space heaters. That's charity. I need the system fixed. And so here it is. He said, well, listen, I can't do anything about that, but the one who runs the property is working the night shift tonight. So here's what you do. I need you to get on the phone, call the one who runs the property. This is his name. Ask for him by name. And once you call the one who runs the property, you ask for him by name, I'm sure he'll fix you. And so I said, all right, cool. So I got on the phone, called the one who runs the property, asked for him by name. And once he got on the phone, I told him about my situation, which he already knew. He said, I'm aware of it already, and it's evident that we can't fix this system that's broken, so you need a new system. I said, you got that right. He said, we don't want you having trouble here at the One and Only, so we're going to upgrade you. I'm already in a 1-bedroom villa suite. He says, we're going to upgrade you. There's a 2-bedroom villa suite that has a baby grand piano. I want y'all to know I can't play, but I did play that night. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. And so he said, we're going to upgrade you. We're going to upgrade you. You're going to stay in this 2-bedroom suite, because at the One and Only, since the system is broken, we're going to put you in a system that works. And y'all, he said this, and then I'm done. He said this. He said, now I need you to get your bags together. You ain't got to carry your bags because you need a key to get to this next room. My son is doing his internship here, and so I'm sending my son to you. Because it's time for a new system. I'll see y'all the rest of the week, but I'm glad to let y'all know in America the system is broken. But I'm so glad if we call on the God who works the night shift, God says, I've sent my son because it's time for a new system. Peace.